Thank you all for coming out. Today is a very special day for myself. Not only have I been chosen to conduct one of the Apple Meet the Musician conversations, but I have the pleasure of conversing with one of my favorite artists. And when I say artist, I don't mean that lightly. He's a true artist in the truest sense, the purest sense. Classically trained vocalist, producer, criminally underrated songwriter. I've seen this man battle a trumpet on stage without a trumpet and won, right? If you're a fan of Miles in his latter years, a fan of Curtis Mayfield's falsetto, a fan of Prince wailing, then you're just like me. You're a fan of this man. It's my pleasure to bring to you a man whose vocals have illuminated the work of great artists like Dr. Dre, Beyonce, and most recently, Kendrick Lamar. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you the incomparable Bilal.
Hello.
This is great. This is great. I couldn't see you doing this 15 years ago.
No, why?
You didn't do a lot of press in your early years. Were you just too cool or recluse?
I didn't do press that well, that's what it was.
Yeah?
I didn't really answer questions that well, so they cut me.
They cut you out a lot.
Yeah. I guess the older I get, I'm getting a little smarter, maybe.
A little.
Not sure.
I hope we all are. The album. It sounds like you were having a lot of fun on it. I mean.
Yeah, we made this album by accident. I met Adrian at a Roots Jam session.
Adrian Young.
Adrian, maybe a year ago, or a little more than a year. And we always said that we were going to do something together because he was working with Ali Shahi Muhammad.
Who's also on this album.
Yeah, who was also on the album. And Ali, ironically, lived downstairs from me in an apartment building in Brooklyn. So me and Adrian were like randomly crossing paths, but not. So then I sat in with his band at South by Southwest, and it was cool. I liked the band, I liked their vibe and everything. And my last album, I started going out to California to record my vocals, because I like the studios out there just for the vocals, the whole experience of the beach, waking up, So while I was out there, I decided to just go again. Since I was next to South by Southwest, I went out to LA, and Adrian called me and was like, hey, just come past the studio since you're in LA. And that day I went out there, that day alone, just seeing his studio, we wound up doing a full song. Actually, one of the songs off of the record. And I came back the next day, the same thing happened, we recorded another song, full song. And pretty much every day, we were cranking out like 1, 2, 3 songs a day. So we went to Raphael Sadiq's studio, because Raphael's like a godfather to me. He did Soul Sister, and he's like a godfather to Adrian as well, with just different, they're both gearheads,
Right.
So. We went to his studio, Big Crit was there. And it's like this whole record just happened like,
Right.
Hey,
I was wondering,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
It was very interesting to see Big Crit. I mean, Kendrick made sense, you were on his album, but Big Crit, I was like, that was...
Well, Crit was at the studio, and I didn't know that Crit was a producer and a musician as well. So we just kind of clicked, We just started talking about music, and it was like, man, I thought you was just a rapper, bro. So everything just kind of happened on this album by the universe.
Organically, yeah. That's great. Because I was surprised, usually you're, all over your album, from lead vocals, of course, backgrounds, keys, and it's like Adrian played like everything, and he mixing as well.
He didn't let me do anything, man. But no, it was very humbling. This time around, my last album, I did everything, and I felt like I just spread myself too thin, I was writing all, and I had to take it in stages, make the music, in my computer. Then I had to go through a phase of it being on a computer. Then I introduce it to the musicians, and we go through a whole phase of putting it together. And then after that, like, I have to put on another cap and start thinking about, well, what lyrics, how to, meld. So this time was easy, bro. It was very easy. Only thing I really focused on was melodies and lyrics.
And you've been getting smarter as you've gotten older.
I've gotten a lot smarter this album, but it was very humbling, to it's hard to just let go when you're used to, like,
I'm sure, yeah,
being an octopus.
Right. Well, speaking about the songwriting part of your album, I mean, you have a penchant for composing songs that are very fluid, very flexible, so you can kind of recreate them live. Can you educate us on that process?
Well, I basically just write the music very open-ended and sketchy, kind of like a jazz tune. So it's not really, it's pretty much a blueprint, So it'll just be chords, certain chords, and the melody. But I'm very flexible with the melody, and anyone I play with, it's just an unspoken thing, like, do whatever you want.
Really?
So this is definitely just a jazz concept, from going to school.
Right, gotcha. Now you talked a lot about your inspiration of like Frank Zappa, right? And discovering him in college, and I see there's a lot of influence between you guys. Like both you guys, you create a formula on bending and blending genres to kind of create your own fruit punch.
Absolutely.
Right? And so are you constantly looking to take all your inspirations and make them your own, or it just happens?
Now it just happens. And then I look back like, oh, wow, this kind of has this thing. But, before that was the whole game. I want to do something that's kind of my own kind of a sound. Everybody that I'm into, they have that,
Right.
A certain sound and vibe that you relate to them, when you hear it. So for me, it's just a big thing,
Right. Can you break down the meaning of In Another Life?
Well, In Another Life initially didn't have a meaning at all. It was just a random title I came up with out of the song Satellites. Just another day in another life. And I was going to name the album Just Another Day, but I was like, what the hell? Just Another Day doesn't sound right. In Another Life, it sounds better. And I was going to name it I'm a Satellite, but I was like, that's weird.
Weird for you, though?
Maybe not.
I think the people would have accepted that. I think the people would have accepted that.
Yeah. I don't know. But when I started thinking about In Another Life even more, it's pretty much what happened on this album, because none of the songs are really, per se, from my life. So okay. What I kind of did, we would come and I would wind up just reading a paper, or we would wind up talking in the studio about current events or something like that, and it would just spill over into the music. Like the thing about the way Adrian produces it and composes it, almost feels cinematic the way the music sounds. So it kind of opens you up naturally to be able to speak about a lot of different things, instead of just everything giving you a romantic kind of a vibe. Right. You can really kind of take a hip hop MC approach, with what he was doing, and that's what really drew me to us making songs so fast, because I could pretty much speak about anything.
Anything you wanted, right, within the confines of his loose structure.
So In Another Life is pretty much me putting myself in the headspace of whoever or whatever we're talking about and trying to speak from, that point of view.
Right. That reminds me, you have a very interesting songwriting style, and content-wise, right? You throw a lot into it, right? There's peaks and valleys to it. It reminds me of one of your original songs, Love Poems. right? So if anybody's familiar with love poems, it's interesting because it starts out as this like love letter to your friend. You have a friend, you know, you want something more with your friend. It evolves. They start receiving, and then you start pushing back. Like, I'm too young for this.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, it's like, do you look to create a kind of a shock value to your songs, or do you just want to add more reality to your songs because that's really what life is, like the peaks and valleys of, you know, a normal situation?
Well, I
Another
like
question.
peaks and valleys, you know. I want to be entertained. Plus, with music, I feel like it should spark thought. I think all art should really spark thought or some type of conversation or some type of idea in your own mind, you know.
Right.
So with my music, I try to kind of give it maybe some depth, you know, the best that I can because I'm so shallow. But I do my best, you know.
Nobody believes you.
No one believes
Nobody
me.
believes you.
But you know, that's the major thing about it. You
Right.
know, it's kind of layers like a painting. You know,
Right. Right. Why do you think people gravitate to Sometimes so much? Every time I come to one of your shows, like it's like the most requested song.
because it's the most ratchet song. Just blatant. Like people don't know like the original words to Sometimes almost made me lose my career. This is just, yes, like literally my label made me rewrite the words.
Really?
'Cause it was just too out, you know, like. So I think it's just one of those songs, every lyric kind of somebody can relate to it, you know,
In some right.
in some shape or fashion.
How different is the Bilal today from Firstborn Second?
I can do more, you know.
In what sense?
In what sense, you know, I'm always trying to push myself. When I first started this, I didn't really play piano that well. I really didn't. I didn't play guitar at all, and I wasn't athletic. Now I can do push-ups. I run.
You truly get better at
I'm
age.
trying to master super yoga.
Super yoga.
Yeah, like weird handstands and stuff.
Really?
But
How super is your yoga?
my yoga's not that super.
Not that
yet.
super? No cape yet?
I'm trying to, you know, get more powerful and strengthen it. But you know, I always feel like when you push yourself, for me, when I push myself in physically or maybe to learn something different, it stretches my songwriting, you know, and I understand something different about the music.
Gotcha. How fun was it making the Kendrick album?
Very fun. We worked.
Everybody has the Kendrick Lamar album here, right?
Pimp a Butterfly? Yeah.
Everybody has it in Another Life also?
You can lie.
Some liars.
You liars! So no. It was very fun. We worked really late though. Kendrick has very odd hours, so
What's odd to you?
I'm like an old man. He likes to start at 12 midnight.
Yeah, that's me.
So it's like, what? I'm asleep, you know? So I basically just started sleeping on the floor in the studio, and I'm like, wake me up when it's wake me up when you're ready for me to do something. So half of the sessions I forgot because I was asleep most of the time. But, you know, I really felt like I was a part of something that was important to the culture, you know.
How did you guys hook up?
I actually met Kendrick 3 or 4 years ago at Ultrasound on 30th Street. We were rehearsing in the same rehearsal space, and we met through my background singer knew him. It was before, you know, Kendrick was signed to Aftermath. So
Oh, really? Okay.
had a bunch of underground projects, and my background singer introduced me to him. He's from Oakland as well, so he was like, "Yo, this cat's gonna be huge." So we just started talking from then and just exchanged numbers. A cool cat. So
Yeah.
we had talked about being on his first record, Good Kid, but you know, scheduling and everything like that.
Right.
So.
Right. So did you write the hook to Institutionalized?
No, I didn't write anything.
Really? Okay.
No.
It seems like your way.
What would
really.
happen, he would be like, oh man, I got this idea, kind of go like this. And then I'd be like, oh, I kind of get what you're saying.
I get where you're. I got the gist.
I get where you're going with that, man. Put the mic up.
Right.
So, you know, he pretty much had the concepts very, like, specifically what he wanted to do. Like, everybody that he brought for a specific reason, you know. But a lot of the stuff that he did was really in-house with his production and his production team. And, you know, he's a very conceptual cat, you know. So he had pretty strong concepts from the door, you know.
Yeah, the Colbert performance was incredible. Mm-hmm. That was huge. So now, you know, Kendrick's on your album, right? And Kendrick is on the first single, which I feel like is a very un-Bilal-like thing to do, because this is what baffles me about you. You get these calls from these great artists. Some artists are even like game-changing, like Jay-Z, right? Beyonce. But you never take advantage of the reciprocity. Why is that? Like a Beyonce feature on a Bilal album would be pretty incredible.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, when I'm making a song, I don't really make it like we're gonna do a song for such and such to be on. It just kind of, I just make the song and then it kind of develops. Like every song that I've ever done with someone else, you know, featured on it, it kind of happened like that. It just kind of just so happened. Like on the first album, when did Reminisce and Common and Mos Def was on the record, it was like, we're all an Electric Lady. Mos Def's in the room next door, he comes through. We're like kicking it in the green room. He's like, what you working on? I play it for him. He's like, so that's my part right there? This is where I come in? And I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because for me, initially, it's just music, you know. I kind of just make this stuff, you know.
Right. Well, you know, I don't want to, you know, take up all of the audience's time. I'm sure you have a lot of fans out there that have some questions for you as well. We're going to start the Q&A process.
Hello. So I was just wondering, were there any like big takeaways from you with this latest project, working with one particular producer versus in past project where you may have worked with different musicians, you know, for many songs within a whole album versus like, wow, you know, this time it's one person, you know, with one particular musical style. Of course, he has different things about him, but you know, working with one person for an entire project, were there any like big takeaways for you?
It was great. I was able to really like sit into the music and kind of develop a sound or a real vibe, you know. So it was great, you know. I've been that's always been one of my major things. It's like, oh, you know, I don't want to make an album that sounds like a mixtape. It's like the sound's changing and changing, you know. This was one of those projects where it's like almost just a movement, almost like a complete sound. Like if you check out Miles Davis' Kind of Blue or a Sade album, you know, it's a consistent
Cohesion.
mood you get in. It's a mood, you know.
It's a color almost. This album has a lot of retro pieces too.
Yeah, the whole thing was analog. There's nothing was recorded digitally. Adrian is he's big analog head. So
like Pleasure Toy. Pleasure Toy could be in the mid '80s.
Mm-hmm. Even Pleasure Toy is like old analog keyboards.
Yeah.
We use everything is tape, so that's why it kind of has like that dirty kind of a sound.
Hi, I actually was very interested in the comment you made of how yoga, you were practicing becoming a super yoga, and I would like for you to elaborate more of how you came about it and what exactly you meant by super yoga and how it's influencing your music.
Super yoga? Show you.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna show you some super yoga right now. This is the beginning. Now, when I get this part, when I get this all the way down, I'm gonna fall right off the stage. Well, when I get this down, I'm gonna push it up into a handstand. You know what I mean? I'm trying to master my shit to be able to, boom. I'm trying to do stuff that's gonna last the rest of my life, bro. I found this out. I'm into Zen philosophy and just a lot of I'm a bookhead, and so I kind of came up on this. I'm also into like a lot of kung fu and stuff like that. So,
As in practicing or?
practicing, yeah, I've
Really?
been into kung fu for years, and I just stopped. It started getting too rough. I went through the rough stages too long, and I'm getting old, man.
The
I
aches,
can't do it no
the
more.
bruises.
Yeah, I used to like help a lot of my friends train for fights and stuff.
Right.
I used to be really into it, but like you can't do shows with black guys, man.
You could nowadays. Everything's visual
I've
now.
done shows with black guys. I went on tour once with like a broken rib. It was terrible. It was like, you can't do anything like that. So yoga's way more safe. It's way more safe. If you don't fall off the stage while trying to perform
At the Apple Store.
at the Apple Store. I've been into it for about maybe a year so far. As you can see, I can only do like the first move. But see me next album, I'll do something special.
What inspired the album art, the cover?
Oh, that's a painting from a good friend of mine, Anjiber Matoye. That's only like a little piece of the painting. The actual painting is like the size of this wall. But it's called God's Orchestra. And he's just a good, we've been good friends for years. And I spent a lot of time in his art studio watching him make a lot of these paintings, And so, I don't know, the depth in this music, it kind of just reminded me of his painting. So I asked him, could I use it, Pretty much.
How you doing, Bilal?
What's happening?
I just wanted to know, how do you feel about the current state of R&B and soul music? And do you think it'll get like better or improve?
I do. I think so. We live in intriguing times now. Where there's a lot of things changing. There's a lot more things to speak about in the world. Where I think is enticing more people to want to say something and stretch the realms, I don't know. I just really worry about trying to do what I do. I'm not a critic. I'm an artist myself, So I'm always just trying to figure out what I'm doing,
Who are you at home listening to?
Now,
Yeah.
dude, I don't even listen to nothing. Right. The last thing I listened to, I really checked out, was probably Hiatus Coyote. Dope. But I don't really check anything out unless it's just someone else in the car is checking it out.
Right.
Then it kind of happens that way.
You seem way more passionate about the Booker T book.
Yeah, bro. I'm a bookhead.
Yes, hi. I'm a very big fan of your artistry. I just had a question about in in another life. So I've followed your work. I love what you do. One of the things that really struck me upon first listen was it felt kind of, I felt nodes of psychedelic rock. I also felt there was sort of a bossa nova feel too. And I was just wondering, was that sort of an intentional move, or is that just the way it came together? I'm really interested to know, I guess, what your inspiration was for this album.
Well, nothing was really intentional. Well, I know we wanted to show a lot of range on this album. Literally, we had, at the end of the day, like 30 songs. Like, there's songs that'll probably never see the light of day. Like, usually I'll do a record and I'll do like maybe 17 songs and pick from there. But this time we did almost like 35 songs. So it's just all types of styles of music meshed into one. One of the things that me and Adrian have in common is that we both love rock and love psychedelic music, prog rock. You know, I'm a big Yes fan, a big King Crimson fan, you know, Pink Floyd. So, you know, Adrian as well, he owns a big record store out in California. So we're hanging out there just as much as the studio, you know, talking about different records, you know. And I guess stuff just seeps in, you know, just like writers or poets, you know, whatever you're exposed to, it just kind of comes in through osmosis, you know. Yeah.